Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you tonight. The Sensex and the Nifty declined for the fifth straight session for the first time in 7 months. The Sensex loses over 500 points, breaching 64,000 in intraday trade. The Nifty Bank index turns negative for 2023. Microsoft's quarterly revenues top $56 billion at a growth rate of 13%. The cloud business drives growth as it beats estimates. Google's parent Alphabet reports $77 billion in revenue, clocking double-digit growth for the first time in a year. But a slowdown in the cloud business disappoints investors. AxisBk beats estimates in Q2 loan growth. Asset quality is the best in over 7 years. On the other hand, TechMahindra misses estimates. Revenue declines over 2%, shrinking for the second straight quarter. Hinduja brothers confirm plans to hike stake in Indusind Bank, say they will try to buy shares from the open market once they raise capital from shareholders by November 15th. Hindujas also say they have funds queued up to take over Reliance Capital and are awaiting the green light from courts. Hope to complete the transaction this financial year. Israel intensifies its attack on Gaza. The UN warns that hospitals in Gaza may be forced to shut down for the lack of fuel. Israel seeks the resignation of UN Secretary General after he said the appalling attacks by Hamas cannot justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. It's revolving doors for CFOs at India Inc. Ajay Goel returns to Vedanta after a brief stint with Byju's. He's set to oversee Vedanta's restructuring exercise. Byju's appoints Nitin Golani as the new CFO as it hopes to wrap up the delayed FY22 audit process. Festive cheer for the economy. iPhone sales cross 1.5 million in a week. Auto sales up 20% since Onam. Hotels clock double-digit growth and property sales remain robust. 42 U.S. states sue Instagram and Facebook parent Meta over their impact on children and teenage users, accuse the social media giant of contributing to a youth mental health crisis through the addictive and compulsive nature of their social media platforms. With days to go before elections, we speak to the two men in the hot seat. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan says he does not aspire to be the CM and the party leadership will take the final call. Rajasthan's Ashok Gehlot says the Chief Minister's post is not leaving him, lays down the rift with Sachin Pilot. Also on the show, once chosen to fight the Maoist menace in Chhattisgarh, tribals who joined the Salwa Judum and their families now live under the long shadow of revenge by the Naxals and apathy of the state. A ground report coming up. All of that and more coming up in just a bit, but first to the sell-off that we saw on the Lal Street today. The Sensex and the Nifty declining for 5 straight days for the first time since March. In fact, the Nifty Bank has fell in line with the blue chips and turned negative for 2023. Meanwhile, the mid-cap and small-cap indices did fare slightly better, but ended over 0.25% lower. BSE companies have lost a market capitalization of 2 lakh crore rupees today and a total of 9 lakh crore rupees in the last 2 sessions. So that's the story. Down 1% on the Nifty. The Nifty Bank losing over 300 points. Faring a little better there, the mid-cap and the small-cap index. Prashant is standing by now to decode the market action for us. We resumed for trade today after the break yesterday, Prashant, but markets continue to be nervous.
Well, the selling from day before yesterday continued. That is Monday, which was a pretty poor session for bulls. We had a break yesterday and then we came back with wishy-washy kind of global cues. US markets were neither here nor there, not definitive. And we started on an okay-ish note. There was even an attempt at a bounce, about 45-50 bounce points, but it sold off pretty quickly and then never really recovered, down about nearly 1%. Bank Nifty a little better, but down about 0.75%. But mid-caps and small caps were down, but actually did the best. The small cap index will come up on your screen. That lost only 0.25%. That's been the strongest of the 4 indices all of this year, and it held its own, losing very little. Large caps which lost, no real, one color, hue or sector, subsector, etc. It was across the board. Infi, Cipla, Apollo Hospitals, NTPC, SBI Life, Aisha, some of the names. Metals as a pack were higher. Coal India, Tata Steel and Hindalco, although there was no real news flow. Maybe something with what's happening in China. Broader markets and what lost advanced decline was pretty poor, almost at comparable levels to Monday. Cochin Shipyard, HEG, there was Bector Foods, Data Patterns, Fusion Microfinance, Jubilant Pharma, MMTC, Safari, PG Electroplast, Repco Home Finance were some of the ones which got hit the hardest. And there were winners as well, so it was not all down. BSE almost at 1800, Indian Overseas Bank, Welspun Industries. Welspun, big cut Monday. Today it recouped those losses and actually added, so technically strong signal. Delta, Amber, Angel, Bajaj Consumer, Sequent Scientific, and a few others as well. I want to sort of wrap this market wrap-up with a few views, both from a global and local perspective as well. So this is Bill Ackman of Pershing Square, who runs a very well-regarded hedge fund. He tweeted day before yesterday saying that they've covered their bond shorts, but that's not what I'm focusing on. He says there is too much risk in the world to remain short bonds at current levels. The economy in the US is slowing faster than what recent data suggests. So this ties in with what many fear will be a much slower world economy sometime in the fourth quarter. Akash Prakash of Amansa Capital runs a few $1 billion here in India. He says the primary concern regarding India is valuations. India is now, along with the US, the most expensive market in the world, but ends on a positive note, says a wall of money is waiting to come in on corrections. And lastly, a technical view on India. Lawrence Belanco, well regarded at CLSA, the technical analyst, says some patience is warranted as the market works through a corrective phase of its price momentum peaks, which were registered in September. Through this corrective phase, weakness is likely to 19,200, 19,230 area, and potentially a retest of the 18,500 to 19,017 area could be seen as levels to add to new long positions. So not really giving up, saying perhaps this weakness has some more way to go, but at those levels it would be better risk reward once again. Back to you.
Well, that's the call on the market's uncertainty weighing on the minds of investors. Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Let's now shift our focus to the big earnings of the day, and let's start with the global ones. Microsoft posting quarterly revenues of a little over $56 billion at a growth rate of 13%. Now, the tech major did beat estimates, and its cloud business drove growth in the quarter. The company said the demand for artificial intelligence is the driving factor for a 3 percentage point boost to the company's cloud business. That was Microsoft. Over to Google's parent Alphabet. It also reported $77 billion in quarterly revenue, clocking double-digit growth rate for the first time in a year. But a slowdown in its cloud business has left investors disappointed. Revenue in the cloud unit declined by 3%. Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai touted AI as the big factor and told investors it presents exciting opportunities for the company. Take a look.
Obviously, we see AI as a foundational platform shift, and are excited about the opportunities across our business. It starts with search, and I've been pretty pleased with how the user feedback has been on SGE. We are rolling it out to more users. Through it all, we are making sure the product works well, and we are generating value for our ecosystem, and that ads transitions well. And I think, I view this as, with AI, the opportunity to evolve search and assistant over the next decade ahead.
Well, that's Sundar Pichai. And staying with global tech, a coalition of 42 American states have sued tech giant Meta for violating consumer protection laws. The joint lawsuits state that Meta used its features to hook children to its platforms and also deceived users about safety on its social media apps. The lawsuit seeks various remedies from Meta, including financial penalties. Let's head home now to earnings. Axis Bank ahead of street expectations in the second quarter. The bank has reported the best loan growth in 29 quarters. Deposits have increased by almost 18% on a year-on-year basis. Net interest margin also improving for the quarter. It's a good set of numbers there from Axis Bank. Disappointment on TechMahindra, which posted a weak Q2, missing estimates on profit, dollar revenue and margins. The tech major's dollar revenue fell 2.8% compared to last quarter, while its constant currency revenue also fell 2.4%, missing expectations. And staying with earnings, Network 18 and TV18 have reported a loss in the second quarter, but this is largely on account of investments made by the group. Network 18 reported a 20% growth in revenue, and TV18 has seen its revenues rise over 22%. The revenue from the news segment has seen a growth of 20%. Entertainment revenue is up 22% and subscription revenue is up 12%. The news segment has also reported an EBITDA of 10 crore rupees compared to a loss of 5 crore rupees in the same quarter last year. The standard disclaimer: Network 18 and TV18 are the companies that operate CNBC-TV18, the channel that you are watching. Well, the big newsmaker this evening, Hinduja brothers have confirmed their plans to hike their stake in Indusind Bank. The three brothers, Gopichand Hinduja, Prakash Hinduja and Ashok Hinduja, spoke with CNBC-TV18's London bureau chief Sanjay Suri. Ashok Hinduja said they will try to buy Indusind shares from the open market once they finished raising capital from shareholders by November 15th. Hindujas also say they have funds queued up to take over Reliance Capital and are awaiting the green light from the courts. They hope to complete the transaction this financial year. Take a look.
Ashok, are you now planning to up the stake in Indusind?
That's right. So the regulator has already modified the policy a few years back, and now they have in principle given us the clearance, and we are raising our capital through the shareholders, which will be by 15th November will be concluded, and post that we'll be in the market to either start buying from the market, or we will wait for the opportunity for the bank to raise capital.
And with Reliance Capital, there have been some questions raised about the source of the funding. Could you tell us a little about that?
I think all the information, the news which has come, we have not even applied to IRDA. So where is the question of rejection? So funds are all queued up. We have to only select and finalize. We will wait for the opportunity as and when the NCLT clears our proposal. After that, we are hopeful during this financial year, this whole transaction will be completed.
And sir, you have been the pioneer in scouting the world for opportunities for the group. What's coming next?
Well, as I mentioned that I come up with new concepts and new ideas to see how everybody can benefit from my contribution. So we have a lot of ideas in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, and of course in China and in US, how we can benefit with Africa, India to bring into that whole, because Africa is going to be the next continent of the world.
In what businesses?
Well, in field of, BRT, exports of, vehicles, leyland vehicles, Gulf oil lubricants around over there, and plus to bring growth and partnership. So there's a lot of areas where we are looking in this.
And we're looking at growth of Ashok Leyland in India as well.
Exactly, as well.
The Lucknow plant, or what's
when the exports will take place into the different part of the world, there will be a growth.
What you are asking about Lucknow, we are already committed and we will be moving forward.
Well, the Hindujas are on their plans for Indusind and more. Now, Israel has intensified its attack on Gaza, which reels from a humanitarian crisis. Over 5,700 people have been killed in Gaza alone so far. As per the UNICEF, the death toll includes nearly 2,400 children. The UN agency has called the deaths of children, and I quote, a growing strain on our collective conscience, end of quote. Meanwhile, hospitals in the war-ravaged enclave are on the verge of shutting down for the lack of fuel. Israel has called for the resignation of the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. This after Guterres said that though Hamas's attack on Israel was appalling, it cannot justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people.
Nothing can justify the deliberate killing, injuring and kidnapping of civilians or the launching of rockets against civilian targets. It is important to also recognize the attacks by Hamas did not happen in a vacuum. The Palestinian people have been subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation. I am deeply concerned about the clear violations of international humanitarian law that we are witnessing in Gaza. Let me be clear, no party to an armed conflict is above international humanitarian law.
The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres there. Now, it is a revolving door for CFOs at India Inc. Ajay Goel has returned to Vedanta Group as CFO after a brief stint of barely 6 months with Byju's. This after Sonal Srivastava resigned from Vedanta amidst major structural changes at the group. The stock surging in trade post this development today. And as Ajay Goel exits Byju's just 6 months after joining, the EdTech company has appointed Nitin Golani as the new CFO. Byju's is yet to file its results for FY22, and Goel is likely to complete the audit process before walking out of the building. Now, tech startup Go Mechanics founders have been booked for forging documents and falsification of accounts. The Economic Offences Wing of the Delhi Police has named 4 founders, directors along with other senior officials in the FIR lodged this week. The complaint was lodged on behalf of 3 investors who alleged that the accused manipulated the startup's accounts to misrepresent its growth potential. In a bid to provide relief to Rabi farmers, the Cabinet has approved the fertilizer subsidy from October 2023 to March 2024. The subsidy, worth over 22,300 crore rupees, will be applicable on phosphatic and potassic fertilizers used for the rabi crops. Now, as consumers loosen their purse strings this festive season, companies across sectors including auto, electronics, hotels and real estate are feeling elated. iPhone sales crossing 1.5 million in just a week. Auto sales grew 20% since Onam. Hotels clocked double-digit growth and 2.3 lakh homes were sold in the first 9 months of 2023. Parikshit Luthra gets us a snapshot of the festive sales.
There was a very strong demand for premium smartphones during this festive season. iPhone sales crossed 1.5 million units during the first week of festive sales for the first time ever. Smartphone sales grew 8% in volume and 25% in value terms between the 8th and 15th of October. So which phones are people really buying this time around? The strongest demand was for Samsung, Xiaomi and Apple phones. Premium smartphone sales doubled across online channels. On Flipkart, for example, smartphone sales grew 50% year-on-year, driven by iPhone 14 and Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. On Amazon, smartphone sales grew 200%, driven by iPhone 13 and Samsung Galaxy S23 FE. Auto sales, if we come to auto sales now, these were largely flat during Navratri, but on the whole, the sector has grown 20% year-on-year since Onam, with 7 lakh cars sold, and by Bhai Dooj next month, we could see 10 lakh cars being sold. The highest demand has been for SUVs, MPVs, premium hatchbacks and entry-level sedans. Strong demand in the first half of FY24 will contribute to double-digit revenue growth in the hotel industry. Pan-India premium hotel occupancy is at 70 to 72% in FY24. Hotel occupancy is expected to be at decadal highs. Domestic leisure travel, meetings, conferences, G20, the World Cup and the increase in foreign tourist travels has contributed to this growth for the hotel industry. Now to the property sector. There's robust growth in real estate leasing. Residential sales have seen a 5% year-on-year increase in the first 9 months of 2023. Home sales exceeded 2.3 lakh units in the first 9 months of this year. Sales and new launches could reach a decadal high and exceed the 3 lakh mark in 2023. So that was a quick snapshot of this year's festive sales.
Well, good news coming in. Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. Up next on India Business Hour, once chosen to fight the Maoist menace in Chhattisgarh, tribals who joined the Salwa Judum and their families now live under the long shadow of revenge by Naxals and apathy of the state. You can also catch all of our news and updates on our WhatsApp channel, Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Well, with just days to go before the state elections, we speak to the two men in the hot seat. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan says he does not aspire to be the Chief Minister and that the party leadership will take the final call. Rajasthan's Ashok Gehlot says the Chief Minister's post is not leaving him and plays down the rift with Sachin Pilot. Take a look.
जो रोल पार्टी मेरे लिए तय करेगी, मैं वही करना चाहूंगा क्योंकि हम एक बड़े मिशन का अंग हैं, एक बड़े अभियान का हिस्सा है। हमारा एक पूरा आइडियोलॉजिकल पूरा परिवार है, एक सोच है। हम इसलिए राजनीति नहीं कर रहे हैं कि हम कहां रहें, खुद क्या बने। हम इसलिए राजनीति में हैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी के माध्यम से कि एक वैभवशाली, गौरवशाली, संपन्न और समृद्ध राष्ट्र का निर्माण करना है। एक ऐसा भारत जो खुद तो आगे बढ़े लेकिन दुनिया को भी दिशा दिखा सके और पीएम श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में ये हो रहा है। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं कांग्रेस के मित्रों से आज कि मुझे पार्टी ने फेस नहीं बनाया, तब भी तुम इतने परेशान क्यों? मेरा नाम क्यों लेते हो? तुम्हें तो राहत मिलनी चाहिए, लेकिन सुबह शाम दिन और रात आप देख लीजिए उनके ट्वीट में, उनके भाषणों में माम ही रहता है।
अगर मैंने काम किया है और लोग क्या सीएम ने अच्छा काम किया है, उसने वोट दे रहे हम लोग, वो इस पर मैं खत्म क्यों करूंगा? मैं कहूंगा कि अगर ये स्थिति बनती है, मैंने कहा मुख्यमंत्री पद मुझे नहीं छोड़ेगा, नहीं छोड़ रहा है और लगता नहीं छोड़ेगा, तो सारे संडे मैंने काम लिए वो सोच समझ के लिए। तो शब्द आपने काम लिए वैसे कभी काम नहीं लिए उनके लिए। वो नौजवान साथी हमारा है, केंद्रीय मंत्री बनवाने में मेरी भूमिका थी, उनको मैंने सिफारिश की थी। उसको मैं कैसे मानूं कि भाई मेरा कोई स्नेह नहीं उसके प्रति है। उनके पिताजी हमारे साथ थे, पायलट जी, हम साथ साथ पार्लियामेंट में घुसे हैं। डिफेंसेस हो गए कोई कारण से मान लीजिए तो भूल और माफ करो। आज देश के अंदर संकट की घड़ियां हैं, मेरा मानना है डेमोक्रेसी खतरे के अंदर है और हम वफादार पार्टी के लिए हैं, तो मेरा मानना है सारी बातें भूल करके कैसे हम कांग्रेस एजेंडा बुलंद करें।
Well, the two war horses there of the BJP and the Congress in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Salwa Judum means peace march in Gondi dialect, but for the last 18 years, the phrase represents something else in Chhattisgarh. In 2005, the government started recruiting and arming local tribals against Naxalites. In 2011, the Supreme Court declared this arming of civilians as unconstitutional. The Salwa Judum recruits say it's been years that everyone has forgotten about them, as they are now of no use to anyone anymore. Sandhya Gura gets us this story from Chhattisgarh's Bastar region. Take a look.
350 kilometers from the capital city, Raipur. This is a Salwa Judum village, and these are Salwa Judum recruits and their families. In 2005, the government started recruiting local tribals to fight Naxalites. The security forces provided weapons to these recruits. But in 2011, the Supreme Court said that the government can't arm civilians like this. The court directed the government to recall the weapons provided to Salwa Judum recruits. It's been years now, and the recruits say that the government didn't keep their promise of looking after them. The government might have forgotten about the Salwa Judum recruits, but Naxalites haven't. The recruits and their families are forced to live near camps of security forces to protect themselves from being attacked by Naxalites. They are uprooted and have no place to go now. 40-year-old Budhram Kovasi, an original Salwa Judum recruit, shared his story with us.
आप सलवा जुडूम में कब भर्ती हुए, अपनी मर्जी से गए थे क्या, आपको क्या हथियार मिले थे, कुछ बता सकते हैं?
नहीं हो क्या आता है, मैं तीर धनुष से पकड़ के तो चलो जा हमला करेंगे बोलने से हम लोग नहीं बच सकेंगे बोला, मैं इसलिए तो डर कमारी में यहाँ आए।
और भर्ती कब हुए थे आप?
2005।
अच्छा, मुझे ये बताएं कि उसके बाद अभी जो है वो नक्सलियों का डर अभी भी है आपको? गांव जा सकते हैं अकेले कि नहीं जा सकते?
नहीं जा सकते, पर्स के साथ में जा सकते लेकिन अभी नहीं सकते।
Naxalites want to seek revenge against these recruits for joining Salwa Judum. Even the next generation of these recruits can't go back to their native land.
मैं बीजापुर की हूँ, यहीं पर आके शादी हुआ है मेरा जी। उन लोग उधर के थे, उधर से जब सलवा जुडूम उठा तो यहाँ पे आए हैं। नक्सली लोग का डर है तभी गाँव नहीं जा पाते हैं।
Salwa Judum recruits during their peak came under the scanner of various human rights organizations which claimed that these warriors combed village after village looking for Naxalites. Many of the Salwa Judum warriors are accused of burning and looting villages in the name of looking for Naxalites. The situation is very different for the Salwa Judum recruits now without the protection of the state. They say the government either talks about the local tribals or Naxalites, but no one talks about them.
अभी चुनाव सर पे है, बूथ कहाँ होंगे तय हो गया है। जो बूथ के केंद्र सड़कों पे थे, गांव में नहीं था, वो सारे वापस हो गए हैं। अब उन गांवों में 15 साल बाद वो अपने गांव में मतदान करेंगे। ये लगभग 125 से 150 पोलिंग बूथ है।
नक्सल के खिलाफ लड़ाई की पृष्ठभूमि और तैयारी बीजेपी ने ही किया। कांग्रेस के पूरे शासनकाल के दौरान नक्सलियों को संरक्षण दिया गया, बढ़ाने का काम किया, चाहे मध्य प्रदेश की सरकार हो, चाहे कांग्रेस की सरकार 2003 तक यहाँ थी, उस सरकार थी, हमने कार्य योजना बनाया।
Salwa Judum's existence was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 2011. 12 years since then, the original recruits are floundering for roots, and so are their families and their children. They say the promises of support made by the government at the time of recruitment have been forgotten, and now they have neither a home nor land to call their own. They are, for all intents and purposes, the voters Chhattisgarh has forgotten. In Kasoli, Chhattisgarh, with camera person Swapnil Bandekar, this is Santya for CNBC-TV18.
And our coverage on election exchange of the 5 states going to the polls will continue here on CNBC-TV18. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18.